There were lots of protests about the lockdown in Victoria this weekend. All of them were illegal. Of course, not one of the 5 permitted reasons to leave the home is to question the government who's decided to send you home. Here's part of the protests that included some small business groups firing up.
We can't pay bills. We can't do anything because we're losing money.
In Australia, I've had enough. I'm an entrepreneur. I'm not an activist. Stop it.
David Limbrick addressed this crowd. Have the police come knocking on your door, mate?
No, they didn't, but they knocked on many people's doors, including business people who wanted to attend the protest. They also knocked on the doors of independent journalists who wanted to document what was happening, including, I'll give a shout out to Real Ruction, who took that footage. He got a knock on the door the night before and decided to come along and document it anyway. And I'm very glad he did, because people got to see how small business people who are pushed to the edge get treated by the government in Victoria when they speak out.
There was an extraordinary exchange with our own reporter Patrick Murrell and the acting Premier James Merlino yesterday, when he asked the acting Premier, is there a plan for business recovery after the lockdown ends? Now, given that 0.01% of everyone who has been tested ends up being COVID positive, given that the extreme majority of cases are still in and around the northwest, given that kids should be back in schools, this thing should be coming towards an end. But it feels like they want to push this thing for as long as possible. So what does it say to you that they're not even entertaining the idea of the end of the tunnel and starting to have any sort of plan for that, when, of course, they were up front on literally day 1 or 2 of lockdown? Oh, here's $500 million to take care of people. I thought it was really interesting, that exchange, that I think this thing's going to go a little bit longer than anyone hopes.
Well, we know that when they've come out of lockdowns before, they haven't just lifted the lockdown, they've sort of eased out of it very, very slowly. And then we've had all these sort of fights about, who gets their liberties back first and this sort of thing. And it's pretty ugly, really. And businesses can't operate like this. Like they can't just be shut down at a moment's notice and then have no idea when they're going to be able to open again. They need to get their staff back. They need to get stock. And it comes down to what you've been talking about. I'm glad so many people are talking about now, because I've been talking about it for so long, is proportionality. Is the response proportionate that the government's been taking? And I think there's very serious questions about the proportionality here. That's exactly why this week in Parliament, my colleague Tim Quilty and I from Liberal Democrats are putting forward a private members bill to put safeguards on the emergency powers to ensure that it has parliamentary oversight, and that if there are actions that are reckless and unlawful, like directions that are reckless and unlawful, there will actually be criminal penalties for the bureaucrats that put them up.
Here. Well, tell us how that goes, mate. We'll check in a little later in the week as all of that rolls on. Keep an eye on his Facebook page. He's a good man. Thank you very much, David. Good on you for standing up for those who are often crushed by the big bureaucracy and the big politics.